Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of the State of the Fandom. I am your democratically elected president for life, Neil Fox.
And I am the appointed Prime Minister of the furry fandom.
Yes, and we have been having just the most fascinating discussion, and I thought, and you thought, that we should bring in the podcast audience on this.
Take the next right onto Shelby Street.
So we are headed home right now from having a delicious birthday dinner. Happy birthday, by the way.
Happy belated birthday. Yes.
I'll be your Marilyn Monroe.
Happy birthday to you.
Slight left onto US 31 North.
Yes. So, where do you think that we should start with this topic? We've been talking about free college. We've been talking about recycling. We've been talking about ways that normal people can pay less in tax.
Let's start with the taxes.
Yeah. So, I am not a lawyer, just to be clear. You are not a lawyer.
No.
And nothing we say in this or any other podcast is legal advice.
No.
Now our lawyer can sleep a little bit better at night.
Yes.
So, most people don't know how easy it is to go and donate things at their local, whether it's Goodwill, whatever. It doesn't have to be Goodwill, but they're just the most obvious one.
Let's stick with Goodwill because we understand the process.
Right. And so, let's say that somebody has a bunch of clothes, for example. Maybe you have some old shirts that you don't use anymore. What you can do is you can actually go down to your local Goodwill.
On US 31 North for 3
you can
miles.
donate those items, and they will give you what's called a donation receipt.
Yes.
Very simple concept, but most people just don't even know that this is a thing. So, tell them how the donation receipt works.
The donation receipt works is you go there, you donate your stuff, and they hand you a slip of paper where you have to go through and itemize what items are being donated, the value of the items, typically nothing ridiculous. You can't get away from like a $60 shirt. That ain't gonna fly.
Well, yeah, so the law is it has to be the retail value or the market value of the item.
Yes.
So, it could be something that you purchased, if you're an old fogey like myself, maybe you purchased it when it was, $5 back in the day, and now a t-shirt of that similar type is $10. The market value for that item is $10, not $5.
Yes.
So, what you can do is you can donate these things, and if you are a person who itemizes on their taxes, so itemizing is, it means that you're taking deductions for different things. And many people might not even realize how many deductions that they could be getting.
Indeed.
So, I'll go through a couple just that I know about. And again, I'm not a tax expert. These are just some that I know about from going to business school. So, if you are a small business owner, you already itemize. Even if you don't itemize on your personal taxes, you have to itemize for a business. A business does not have a standard deduction that it can take. So if you're a business owner, you can do this with your business. So, for example, some things that you can deduct are anything that you use for your job. So
yes.
you could have just a regular office job, and if you commute to and from work, 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever each way, you can either deduct your mileage, or you can deduct the cost for maintaining your car, including gas, including all of that. And what people might not know is that the mileage rate is actually 58 cents per mile.
Yes.
58 cents per mile. Now, when we're talking about a standard deduction, for most people, they normally just take a standard deduction. And that's a smart thing to do, especially if you have not a lot of different things to put on your tax forms. But that standard deduction for a single person is about $4,500 or so. $4,500 is a lot less than some people spend on their car. And
yes.
a lot less than they could deduct just in mileage alone if they have a long commute.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're a business owner, you can deduct your mileage. You can deduct anything that you use for your business. So things like if you use your computer for business, your phone,
Tools,
any
equipment that you may acquire.
Right. And a lot of people know about that, where, if you buy a tool, of course you can write that off. But what a lot of people might not know is that something like your cell phone bill, you can deduct the amount that you use your cell phone for business. So let's say that someone uses their phone for business about half the time.
In a quarter mile,
You would just
use the
tell-
right 2 lanes to take the I-465 West I-74 West ramp.
Thank you, Lola. You would just tell your tax professional, well, I use my phone about 50% of the time for work and 50% of the time for personal. And then you can deduct half of the money that you pay for your cell phone bill.
Use the right 2 lanes to take the
Let's say
I-465 West ramp.
for an
and
average
keep left
person, maybe
before.
that's around $60 or $70 a month. Half of that would be around
Keep
30 or
left at the fork.
35. That's a lot of money over the course of a year.
Oh, yeah.
And if all of these deductions added up equal more than $4,500, all you have to do is provide all of those receipts for your deductions, all of the tracking for your mileage, for example, and you can deduct more than the standard deduction. How do you think that people who have
Continue on
families
I-465 West for 13
have
miles.
such a positive tax structure? Why do you think that people who have, 4 kids, how can they support 4 kids on somebody working just a regular job? The reason why is because they have themselves for their standard deduction, and then they have 4 dependents, their 4 kids, that they can deduct as well. That comes out to about $25,000 in deductions just for that. Not even including a spouse, not including any other deductions, just the standard deduction for a family. And if you have a lot of deductions, maybe you travel for work. Maybe you own your own business and you drive around town. Like your brother is a landscaper, for example.
Yep.
He could be deducting all of those miles that he travels around town to drive to people's houses or businesses to do landscaping work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's a lot of information, and obviously we are not tax professionals. There's a lot to go through, and we want to make sure that you are covered. So, if you want to try any of these things, make sure that you talk to your tax professional first. But the long and short of it is, for millions of people in the United States, millions, they are overpaying on tax at a time when they need every dollar they can get.
Yes.
Every dollar is precious right now.
Indeed.
And so why would you give more of it to the government than you have to? This is legal. Why do you think that Warren Buffett pays an effective tax rate of less than 15%, while the average Joe working at one of his companies at Berkshire Hathaway pays around 30%? Now, you might say, oh, well, he's using illegal loopholes. He's not. He's using legal loopholes.
They're not even loopholes. It's just you donate stuff, you do a good deed, and you get to pay less money.
Maybe we need to rebrand it, because maybe this is one of the reasons why so many people don't do this, is because they see it as like, oh, well, I'm not doing the right thing by getting an extra deduction that I don't deserve, quote unquote. But that's nonsense. It's not a loophole if that's just the way the law works. You donate to a charity, you deduct the amount that charity stuff is worth.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about donating books earlier.
Yeah.
So let's say you were talking about people can buy books from Goodwill in bulk.
Yeah, they can.
How can they do that? Like, do they do that on eBay?
You typically have to go in person
Okay.
at the at their warehouses,
Okay.
and you typically go in, you buy the books in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $50 for like $1,000 or some shit,
Right.
something like that, or it might be higher. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Individual states, individual Goodwill locations have different prices.
Of course. Yeah. No, we're just giving people an example. There could be people listening from anywhere in the world.
Exactly. So what you do is you go in, you want a Gaylord of books, you buy the Gaylord of books.
Gaylord?
It's the technical term for a large box. That is actually what they're called. Don't ask me why.
I would like one Gaylord, please.
One Gaylord.
Now, the price may have gone up since you were working at Goodwill a couple of years ago. But when you were there, you said it was roughly around $50 or so?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's take this, just a normal person. What they could do is they could go into one of these places, one of their warehouses, right?
Yep.
You buy 1,000 books for $50. You then go on, let's say, eBay, and you can sell any of them that have value. So you go through and you can scan with the eBay app. Bless you. You can scan with the eBay app to see which of the books have value.
Mm-hmm.
And you can sell them for cash.
Yes.
So let's say that 10 of the books are worth $20 each. That'd be $200 right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the books
are all donations.
And you can donate them at the market value, not the value that you paid for it. And this is the crucial thing. And you might say, oh, it's a loophole. That can't be true. Billionaires do this all the time. And why shouldn't you, at a time when the economy is collapsing, at a time when the dollar is going to zero, I am going to make a prediction on the podcast right now.
Yeah?
I think that the value of the dollar is going to go to zero. It's going to be Zimbabwe on the biggest scale that anyone has ever seen.
So we get a diesel RV.
If we can afford it. But, it's...
Things are gonna go to shit real quick, guys. Buckle in. Make sure that you go get some extra food. Make sure you have a couple extra firearms on hand. Ammo is going to become a commodity and a trading resource. And if you don't know how to build a water filter by now, I would definitely research all of that and then throw that in a goddamn binder.
Right. Well, and the thing is that for years, for decades now, there have been people saying things like, be a prepper, the world's going to end all of this. The thing is,
the preppers have been right this whole time. Natural disasters still exist.
Yep.
Natural disasters, rolling blackouts.
Yeah.
Fuel prices at the moment are at all time. I'm like, hey, let's just put it this way.
Yep.
Right now, summertime, we need to prepare for winter.
Absolutely.
Winter is going to kill millions of people in one way or another. If shit keeps going on the way it is going to be ridiculously hellish.
Well, and take no further look than Texas just a few months ago.
Yes,
there was
people died.
A huge blackout.
Yep.
For weeks because of an ice storm. And you know what? The preppers were fine.
Yes.
The preppers didn't freeze to death because they were ready in case of a major failure.
Now, I'm from New England. I'm from Maine. Let's put it this way. An ice storm is the equivalent of a major disaster.
Yeah.
And guess what? natural gas saved our asses. We lost power, but we had natural gas.
Right.
We're talking about the ice storms of 93. Let's see, 93 and 95. There were two huge ice storms.
Oh, I remember the one in 95. I was really young when that happened, but...
You had icicles as large as that truck right there.
Wow.
Like top to bottom.
That's awesome.
It was nuts. But I learned a long time ago to make sure to have extra food on hand.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you have dry goods on hand. By the way, the cost of wheat and other staple item diets are going to go through the roof. Stock up now.
Absolutely.
We're not being alarmist. Look out the damn window.
Yeah, well, think about... I just want every person in this every person listening to this podcast, I want you to think about how desperate people were for stuff at the beginning of COVID. At the beginning of COVID, when there was no issue with the supply chain.
No!
The supply chain was fine.
Yes!
Unemployment was lower than it had ever been.
Uh-huh.
And still, there were empty shelves across the world.
Now we have a shattered supply chain.
How much
stuff is becoming increasingly difficult to get? I see.
How much worse is it going to be when it's not an issue? Because this is the thing that people were mocking. People were mocking people at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
And
There's a speed
to
trap
be
ahead.
fair, rightly so, mocking people for having a panic over this. Of, there's going to be no food, so we got to stock up on food and all this. People were mocking people for doing this.
Yeah.
But at that time, the empty shelves, the only reason the shelves were empty was because there was just not enough time for them to restock the shelves.
Uh-huh. Now we have empty shelves and problems, and I guess down in California they're having trouble with people robbing trains.
Jesus.
Thank you, COVID. We've brought back train
In half a mile,
robberies.
keep
Wow.
left at the fork to
Of
continue
course.
on I-465
But-
north.
The thing that I want to point out to people is that when you see an empty shelf today versus 3 years ago at the beginning of COVID, when you see an empty shelf today, it is usually because that product cannot
Keep
be
left at the fork
shipped
to continue
from
on
China.
I-465 north.
Have you seen what's happening in China, guys?
Yeah,
It's a disaster.
it is a huge disaster. And so if we treated China as the factory of the world for all this time, and, I may not be a Republican myself, but the idea of keeping jobs at home and of employing people in good, well-paying jobs that are stable, pay high wages, and produce things domestically, that is something that we desperately need right now.
Yes. What about all the factories in the Rust Belt? Why aren't we retooling those things to produce stuff for the 21st century? The American populace has retooled its entire economy in war times to save ourselves.
Correct.
World War I, we retooled our economy. World War II, we managed to turn around and retool the entire fucking economy. And thank you, car industries, for inventing the production line.
Right?
We outproduced the Nazis in World War II. We didn't produce a better product. Hell, the stuff we produced was kinda shit. But you know what it did? It allowed us to
Take exit
push
19
forward
for
in
56th
life.
Street.
Well, and something to keep in mind is there was a huge push for domestic industry during World War II. And that
Yes.
is, I'm glad you brought that up, because directly after World War II, there was a labor shortage.
Yes.
Now, why was there a labor shortage after World War II?
Because all the troops were coming home and we didn't have enough. All the troops were coming home and we didn't have enough jobs to fulfill everything.
No. Hold on. So, the reason why there was a labor shortage after World War II is the same reason why there is a labor shortage today. The reason why is because the economy was so productive for the entire world, not just for the United States, but for the entire world, that there were so many jobs, especially in factories, that companies were competing for good workers.
Yes.
So if you're Ford and you're trying to produce cars not just for the United States, but for Canada, Mexico, Europe, Asia, etc., you're trying to produce cars for the entire world. You need a lot of workers to do that.
Yes.
If you are a net exporter,
In half a mile,
if
take
you are a
exit
country
19 for 56th
that
Street.
exports stuff more than it imports, then by definition, labor is going to be a very valuable thing, because you need more stuff than the country itself is consuming.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Take exit 19.
what if we as a people in the United States could create everything we
In
need
a quarter mile,
domestically
turn right onto West
with
56th Street.
recycled materials and with clean energy?
Yes.
How big of a seismic change would that be in the entire world's economy if the United States was completely
Turn right onto
self-sufficient
West 56th
and
Street.
exporting our trash from the past 100 years? We were taking all that trash and turning it into new stuff and selling it to other countries and becoming a net exporter.
And anything that we can't sell and anything that we can't turn into something new, biomass reactors are fucking wonderful, and we should really be pouring money, resource, and money and resources into figuring out how to make them cheaper.
Exactly. Well, and there's so many options for clean energy, and some people might have a
on top of only first world nations can truly take advantage of clean energy, because the amount of money that you have to pour into the R&D, because the research and development doesn't exist.
well,
Or if it does exist, it's being suppressed by those with the money that would be able to create the research and development for this stuff.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is something we're going to talk about in many future podcasts. But it is a fact that you could take less than the land area of a single state. You could take like a quarter of Oklahoma or half of Arkansas, and you could power the entire United States with solar energy with the technology that is available today.
Yes.
When you talk about research and development, that is an important thing, but the way that seismic change, the way that societal change happens, is not by some new thing being created. It's by last year's thing becoming 10 times cheaper.
Yes.
Solar energy has been around for about 30 years now, or 40 years,
The electric
probably.
car's been around for about 50 or 60.
Even
Turn
longer
left
than
onto
that.
Dollar
But
Road.
yeah, the advances in battery technology. A lithium-ion battery was created in the 80s, I think, or the 90s, but it only got widespread adoption when it became stupidly cheap.
Yes.
So what we need is to make
the next left onto
renewable
Palmer Road.
energy cheaper than dirty energy. We need to make clean energy cheaper than dirty energy,
And
because
even the dirty energy is still 10 times cleaner than anything China produces.
yeah. And so
Our
1,000 feet,
dirty
turn left onto
energy
Summerhill
is
Boulevard.
still stupidly clean. Like,
and if we
idiotically clean. We don't have to deal with acid rain. We currently live in Indiana.
Turn left onto
A
Summerhill
huge
Boulevard.
mecca
then turn
for
right
all
onto
sorts of
Prestonwood
stuff.
Drive.
Yep.
But the thing that I would complain about the most is the water kind of tastes like limestone, but it tastes like limestone and chalk.
Well, and we have so much more to cover, but we are about to pull into our lovely driveway. So, for those listeners at home, we are going to outro the podcast, and my name is Neil Fox, President for Life of the Furry Fandom.
I am the Prime Minister / War Dog of the Furry Fandom.
And if you have enjoyed our podcast so far, we are just getting started. This is only episode 8. We have enough conversations that we could probably record 10 episodes a day. We have so much more for you guys. So if you enjoy the podcast, please make sure that you subscribe to it on whatever place that you're listening it to, Apple, Spotify, whatever. And if you can, share the show with a friend. That's super helpful. So if you can, we will see you in the next one, and we really appreciate it.